Welcome back to the channel. Automotive Doctor here. We got a 98 GMC Savannah up in here. And it's a crank no start. We just got it in, had to push it in. We'll get in here and check for any codes that might be present. I'm going to turn the key on. Yep. He is on. I see an engine light, so it tells me more like the engine's up and communicating. So we got a O2 heater code and a crank sensor code. There we go. Signal intermittent and signal out of range. Alright, let's go back to data and see if we actually see any reference from this crank sensor. We'll do a crank and see if we are getting an RPM reference. Engine RPM. Let's crank the engine over. You guys should be seeing that. We have none. Oops, tried to switch off too far. So we have no RPM reference. So that's a critical input for starting. So we're going to have to look into a quick diagram. We'll get out of here and go to component test. Turn switch back off before we kill battery, because the lights stay on this one. I'd have to pull fuses and everything, get the lights off. Alright, I'm going to go into component test on the Snap-on. This is a 2500. We have, I believe, a 5.7. Let me check real quick. See which one we have. I believe I scanned this vehicle with the app. Yep. And it is a 5.7. Close to R. And we want to look at crank sensor. Component information. If I remember correctly, this is a crank sensor that's down in the front of the motor. Somewhat accessible, being this is a van. High voltage crank sensor is a 3-wire switch located on the timing cover. Yeah, sends a 4x signal to the PCM. PCM uses this signal to determine crankshaft position for the ICM, injection and misfire detection. Alright. So suspicion, we're not getting spark, we're not getting fuel either then. Component location, lower right side of timing cover. We'll pop the hood real quick. But I think we might be able to roll up under the vehicle and get the scope lead connected to it. Check all 3 inputs, make sure what's supposed to be there is there, and of course a visual inspection real quick, just in case I see obvious damage. Being this one's exposed somewhat, something could have hit it. But clearly looks like we're not getting any input from it. Could have a harness problem, could have a sensor problem. And visual inspection would be the first thing we should do on this one, to see if we can see anything that's giving us an idea whether or not we got visible damage before we go digging too far. Well, I'm liking the sounds of that. Something on the front of the motor. Might not have to pull the doghouse and get to the back. I believe the crank sensor sends it directly to the computer, then the computer to the ICM. So it's definitely pointing the finger at the either a harness or a crank sensor possibilities. I believe I should be able to get at it. We'll find out here in a second. Yes, it is accessible. We don't see any visible damage to the sensor. A little bit look at the harness. I'm not seeing any obvious damage to it either. Chasing it up. Yes, we look okay. So we're going to get the scope out, tie into the sensor real quick, and see if our ground and power is present, and verify. Let me look, see if I can see. I can't see the tone wheel, so the tone wheel is not exposed. It's inside the timing cover, so we can't see yet. But we want to see if our signal is coming from the sensor real quick, and obviously if our power and ground's good, we'll pull the sensor out and look at the tone wheel. If we don't see visual damage, we'll order us a crank sensor, and it's going to end up being a simple one. Here we go. We'll open the scope up. Pull you over here so you can see. Make sure what you're looking at. There it comes. Alright. First thing we're going to do is check meter. All 3 channels are complete. I'm going to set it up on 20 seconds. I'll do a quick crank. See if anything is going down here. Now we'll do a quick crank. Come back and see what our capture looks like. I don't think I see my 5 volts, did I? On that meter. So I may be missing 5 volts reference. Yeah, because I don't think I see my reference voltage when I looked at the meter. Let's go back and look at the meter again before we even bother look at this. Yeah, my reference voltage was present with switch on. That's why I didn't see it. Yellow is the crank sensor, and it looks like garbage. So clearly we got a crank sensor problem. Our ground looks good. Our voltage pulls down. See what voltage this is supposed to be. I would expect it to be to 5 volts, but it looks like to me it might actually be a 12 volt sensor. So let's take a look here and zoom in on that signal. Oops. There's nothing going on there. We're definitely not getting pulled to ground. We've got a failed sensor. Showing 8.5, nothing happening. Our ground looks good. We got 10.5 volts at the sensor. Let's take a look at our spec over here and we'll order in a sensor. I have a funny feeling it's going to be 12 volts. Did my ground pop off? Nope, ground looks good, so we may just be a little bit of voltage issue going on there. Let's take a look. We'll do our test. No signal. Alright, signature test. Signal black, pink, ignition voltage. Ignition voltage, so we know it's going to be 12 volts. Yes, we should have a simple square wave. And our sensor is not doing anything. So we clearly need a sensor. Yellow PCM should be 12 volts, and we've got about 12. I mean 10, 11, somewhere in that vicinity. Ground should be 0 to 1. Yes, it's good. We'll turn switch on, run back over here and look at the meter on this. I suspect we're going to be close to battery voltage. Headlights are pulling us down. Of course, when we was cranking the starter, it's pulling us down. Let's take a quick look at the meter. See where our voltage shows up. Yep, we're 11 volts. And look at the ground. I mean the signal side. And we're good on the ground. It's obviously the sensor. I want to unplug the sensor real quick and see if we're shorting through the sensor. I suspect we are. We've got a bad sensor is what I'm suspecting, so we're going to unplug the sensor, make sure we ain't shorting the power on that, but I don't believe we are. You should be able to see that we're showing 9 volts switch on the signal side, the yellow channel. I'm going to unplug the sensor and verify the sensor is where we're shorting the voltage. Hopefully I can get a hold of it. Yep, there we go. I heard the fuel pump cut on, so something went down. Yep, we're shorting through the sensor. There you can see. Alright, we're back to normal volts on the crank sensor with it unplugged. So we're going to take a quick look, see if anybody has a sensor on there. We're going to plug it in. We haven't tucked the bolt in. Just get a start real quick and see how it's doing. It's just plugged in temporarily. I guess we can shove the bolt in it some, but I don't think I'll anchor it. I didn't see any visible reluctor damage in the area the engine was stopped on, so we just popped her in there. We're going to plug in and see if we got any kind of reference coming to us like we're supposed to be, because we had none before. None. Alright, we'll start a capture. We'll turn the switch on first and see if we got voltage there like we did before. We'll take a quick look at that. Nope, we're down at 0 volts where we should be. I'm expecting a start. We'll do a start and then we'll just want to shut it off. We'll snug that bolt back up when we're done. I expect to have a start. There we go. We'll shut her down. Problem solved. There we go. There's our signal as the engine picks up. Looks like it's good. It's pointing at the ground every time. Yes, that's what we want to see. Yep. And there we go. Now we got a good sensor in place. Hope you enjoyed the vehicle. Simple fix. Battery voltage is building back up. That's why it's climbing. Hadn't quite started charging yet. I didn't leave it run long enough. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Simple fix. Towed in, unfortunately. And everybody was thinking fuel pump. So while in the parking lot, I introduced some external fuel just to see if it would kick over, and it didn't. So that's why I was kind of suspecting otherwise. And it was a crank sensor. Everybody out there have a good day. Like, subscribe. Automotive Doctor. Yeah. See ya.